Tiger Mama just asked me basically in 2.6 second half whether or not she should be saving up or use her saved up currency for Acheron or Aventurines signature light cones versus going for their E1 or E2 and then E1 respectively. And obviously I'm going to say both because I'm just that kind of guy. But I want to point out that I think there's a really good topic of conversation for like anybody in general, simply for the fact that some of these things, vertical investment is basically going to lean towards like whether or not you're investing fully into this team. Yo, Swerve coming through with the sub at the beginning of the video, bro. Thank you. I appreciate that. Did I move? Yes. We moved. That's why I've been away for weeks, because I've been dealing with all this shit. But we're finally at a position where I can now start to, get back into the swing of things. We're streaming more consistently now. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every day, or every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1 p.m. CST. And then YouTube videos, I'm pushing for 5 days a week. So we're here now, right? Anyhow, going back to what we're talking about, vertical investment going into 2.6. I know that I talk about vertical investment a lot. I don't specifically want to talk about vertical investment like as a whole. I want to talk about vertical investment specifically for 2.6, because this is a golden opportunity for a lot of players where you don't have to pull anything. You can literally save. You have an entire, 6 weeks or something like that? An entire patch to save whatever it is that you want. Daily gems, if you pay for the monthly, you can save that. The battle pass, you can save that. If you pay for the battle pass, that's another rack of gems, like 1700 or something like that, or whatever it gives you. Like, you can save up a lot of jades to the point where whatever it is you're trying to get, you can get. Now, we're gonna break this into a couple different factors here. We're gonna go in order. I believe the first one is Rappa. In fact, let me just kind of come over here so we can see this. Bingo. All right, so we're gonna use the live stream to talk about this just briefly, so I have a visual to go along with what we're talking about. Rappa is going to be number one. Rappa is going to have Yukong, Shui, and Lynx on her banner. You don't need any of this. Now, as like the Rappa guy, because I love ninjas, I think Rappa is completely being just decimated right now. I don't like to use the term doom posting, but that is actually what's happening with Rappa. A lot of players are doom posting Rappa not because she's bad, but because she's not broken. And this was something that I talked about a while ago in a couple of other videos, returning to power creep. And I said that it's going to get to a point where players view certain characters so beyond their like level of the game that if it's not broken, like 1 or 2, nothing else matters. This briefly happened with Daniel, which is Imagine Dragon, right? Dill Pickle, DHIL. I said it then, and then I said it with Jingli Yu, right? Like back to back. It briefly happened with them. Then Acheron came out, and that's when everyone was like, bro, if it's not Acheron, it's not worth pulling. And so now you had a lot of players at that time telling new players, get Acheron, don't pull anything else. That means they lost out on Firefly. They didn't get anything pertaining to Super Break except like HMC. You had people telling people skip May because Robin was coming. So it's like the things that are happening or being said, it's not that these things are bad because like, oh yeah, don't pull whatever because, obviously Robin over May because whatever, or May over Robin because, reason number 2. The issue is these come with baseless reasons. So people are saying just do this thing because they're at the top. They're number 1. So you should do this. That's not how this game works. And I'll have a whole different video for that. Yo, Nick's coming through with the sub, bro. Thank you. I love when you guys support me, man. That means a lot to me. But a lot of what's happening is because you're, as a newer player or someone who's like, going from, Trailblazer 1 to like 45 or 55, you're being told, I don't want to say misinformation, because it's not really misinformation, it's a lack of information. You're not being told the full story on a lot of different things. People are telling you to pull for some shit and they're not giving you the full reason why. Or if you're like, hey, I really like Super Break, what do I need for Super Break? Oh, just pull Firefly and you're done. What if you don't like the way Firefly plays, right? Like Firefly might be number 1, she's not, but she might be number 1 in terms of like Super Break, but you don't like how she plays. So now you need to readjust what you're looking at. When it comes to vertical investment for a lot of these things, Star Rail is a game where obviously you want a multitude of characters to be able to help you do whatever, but you have more strength in your account if you were to have 1 to 3 teams. I say 1 to 3, given that you've been playing the game for like 6 months to a year, 6 to 8 months, right? You could have some teams worked out by this point or finishing these teams. What I'm getting at is that you essentially want to have a few teams that are as strong as you can make them within that time period. Rappa being Super Break. We already have Firefly. We had Boot Hill before that. And technically you can use the new March 7th Hunt as a Super Break character as well. So we have Super Break options. The problem with Rappa coming into the gameplay now is that she is enclosed or surrounded by really powerful shit. All right, really attractive things. What did we just have? Linksha, and then right before Linksha, we had Fei Xiao. So I'm gonna squeeze Rappa in the middle of this, okay? We had Linksha with Robin, and we had Fei Xiao, okay? You have two, I'm not even gonna include Linksha in this because people skip Linksha too. And we had Jiao Shou right before that. Fei Xiao and Robin are two critical characters, right? A lot of people were like, Fei Xiao's trash. They nerfed her during the beta, da-da-da-da-da-da. And this bitch is #1. And it's not because of her specifically. That's its own video that we'll talk about with Fei Xiao. TLDR, it's the team. Regardless of the fact, you have Fei Xiao, and now you have Rappa squeezed in the middle of that. Then after Rappa, you have the alleged, right? The one that we just talked about, the infamous Acheron, who we know is #1, okay? And so now, or was #1. And so now you're looking at this where it's like, okay, here we have the two dominant characters. Which one are you gonna pick up? Most people are gonna tell you pick Fei Xiao or pick Acheron, call it a day. You don't have a Firefly, you don't have a Boot Hill, and you can't use anything for Super Break that's a 4-star, relatively speaking, of course, without, you know, like trying to max him out and min-max a lot of stuff. Some players might feel like they need Rappa because they're missing out on some form of a very strong Super Break. Himiko can fall under Super Break, but Himiko's not guaranteed, right? Himiko is a standard banner character. You would just have to have Himiko. March 7th is free. You can, I mentioned that earlier, you can use her as a Super Break character, but she is not on the same strength as the other 3 characters that we're talking about, the limited 5-star characters. So I don't want to leave March 7th out, but I will talk about her in just a moment. What I want to point out when it comes to Super Break now with who is on the team, or rather the different main DPS options you have, is one of them is free, or rather HMC for all of them is free, but all of them don't necessarily need HMC, that being like Boot Hill, right? Boot Hill doesn't really need HMC. He values it, but sure, all of them value it. You get to a point where you need to start building. Sushong would be great. Sushong's just not as strong. And the way you pilot Sushong is a little differently that newer players won't really be adjusted to unless they main Sushong, right? When it comes to Super Break, picking up Rappa and the fact that she's Doom posted, again, not because she's weak, it's because she's sandwiched in between some shit. And Doom posters, I've learned this, Doom posters simply like Doom posting shit that's not their favorite. Like if they don't like Rappa, then they will Doom post the crap out of Rappa. And it is what it is. Rappa is a strong character. And when I say strong, I mean arguably, she is on par with Firefly. What you're gonna hear someone say, or they're typing in the comments right now, Rappa doesn't have imaginary weakness implant, so she can't be as strong as Firefly. This is not true. Not the not true part about her not having weakness implant. That part is true. What I mean is her being as strong as Firefly and the fact that she doesn't have weakness implant, that's not what makes her make or break on the same level as Firefly. Okay, Rappa has colorless breaking. Colorless breaking is basically, I can take away your toughness meter without it. The difference here is that while Firefly does the breaking primarily for herself, Rappa does the breaking, or rather wants to do the breaking afterwards. She wants the super break. So she wants the break, right? When you have their meter just, you know, the toughness bar just low enough, boom, Rappa gets the break. And then she does another break. Right now we have Exo Toughness. And I'm not going to say what we know, but we know Exo Toughness is coming as a character mechanic. So you have to plan accordingly. If you like Rappa and you know you're into Super Break as a playstyle, you're hearing that Super Break is like the second best or first best team comp in the game, and you really like Rappa, you don't like Firefly, Boot Hill's not around yet, and you want to go for Super Break, you want to build in the Super Break, you need to pick up Rappa, or rather you need to consider picking up Rappa. And then you also need to consider the infamous question, E1 or S1. Now, me personally, I'm going to tell you S1. Why? Because you don't really need E1. E1 is phenomenal because it has defense reduction whenever she goes into her install. Her install is her ultimate with the, you know, she looks like Zenyatta from Overwatch, right? When she does that, she gets the defense reduction attached to it, which is great. But the signature light cone offers too much. Now, I have seen some calcs. The calcs don't make up a huge difference. I think between signature light cone and then it's actually on the banner right here, the Sunday light cone. If you look over to the right of the screen, you'll see that Sunday's kind of off to the right of the screen there. This right here is really good, especially when you get it to like S5, but this is her second best light cone. It's going to be a 4-star. It is a gacha light cone, meaning you still have to pull for it. So at some point you still have to pull on the banner to get this light cone. So you're aiming for a couple copies of this Sunday light cone, which I think is like a Charmony Falls or something like that is the name of it. You're aiming for this light cone, or you're aiming for Rappa's light cone. Rappa's light cone, it's not the damage that you care about, okay? It's what it does. Rappa's light cone gives her more energy. It gives her the action advance forward after she does 2 basic attacks, which means from some players that understand the values behind action values, speed tuning characters, things like that, that means that you can speed up the process that she gets into her ultimate, her install. You can speed up the process so that when she gets her 3 enhanced basic attacks, you don't waste one. She wants to do all of her damage while the enemy is broken. If you're building a traditional break team that you'll see on the internet as some bullshit hyper carry, I say bullshit because you at this point you just don't need it. You literally just don't need it. If you build the team correctly, you don't need a sustain. Now, what happens is you have a character like Lingsha. Lingsha's fucking phenomenal, bro. Lingsha is a sustain that fulfills the conditions of helping you break faster and still doing damage. Like, Lingsha is quite literally one of the most perfect sustains they've ever put in the game. It's crazy how good this character is, and it's crazy how many people are like, Lingsha's whatever, Lingsha's bad. You skip Sha, whatever they're gonna call it, right? It's crazy. So anyway, going into all of this, the S1, it's not about the damage, it's what it allows Rappa to do. No matter what, E0, E1, E what, no matter what it allows Rappa to do in any given scenario. And then when you add in your knowledge behind action values, now you can really start to like crank shit up. Now you build the rest of the team to work for Rappa or with Rappa, not against Rappa. So Rappa is not an easy 1, 2, 3 character the way that Firefly is. Firefly is very like press on, you're done. Moving beyond that point, we talked about Rappa. You can make a decision on that. So now you have to decide going into the future, which I believe is Daniel coming up with Rappa? Okay, yeah, Daniel's gonna be at the same time as Rappa here. Let me make sure. Yep, right after Rappa or at the same time as Rappa, gonna be Daniel. Do not pull this character. I'm not saying that because this character's bad. I want to make that very clear. I know people think that I hate like Mel's or Daniel or whatever. No, I'm saying this because Daniel is already on the decline. Not that his damage is on the decline. It's that there's nothing he can gain anymore, right? He got Sparkle, which is it's the perfect harmony character for a character like Dill Pickle, right? And he's still not at the top. He was at the top. And if you're going to get E2 Daniel, now you can start talking about it. But that's a lot, right? E2 Daniel, that's a lot for me to go around telling people, hey, man, you should just get E2 Daniel. I can't do that. Daniel, compared to everything else that even Rappa is stronger than Daniel. E0 versus E0, Rappa stronger. When we're looking at what all you have around Dill Pickle, unless you really like Daniel, it's not worth pulling for him. You can save. And if you don't like Rappa or Super Break, you can still save, right? I'm not saying pull Rappa over Daniel. I'm saying that you can save regardless of the fact. Again, it's not that I'm saying pull somebody else over Daniel that's on the same banner as him. What I'm saying is that if you are already going to skip, then skip and save for a more up-to-date character. So now, once we're done with Daniel, right, we can move past that. We see that the next thing coming up, second half, phase 2 of 2.6 is the big one, Acheron. And Tiger, this is going to help answer your question. I apologize for taking 15 minutes to get to your specific question, but we're here now. Acheron as a whole is a phenomenal character that is currently also being Doom posted. And when I say Doom posted, I don't mean like people are saying Acheron is horrible. She's always been horrible. What I'm saying is that now you have players comparing Acheron to Fei Xiao and Firefly. And what they're doing is I just talked about this on Twitter earlier. It's called a fallacious argument, I think is the specific term that I'm thinking of. But basically what they're doing is they're creating a fallacious argument. What a fallacious argument is, it's basically a bad faith argument. It's an argument set up to fail. It's an argument set up to mislead the other party. What happens with Acheron versus anybody else in the game is they're basically saying Acheron no good. Acheron was good, now she got power prep. Acheron no more good. She not top no more. She's not top 3, top 2, whatever. This isn't the case. If you were to 1v1 Acheron and Fei Xiao, it creates a problem, right? Fei Xiao is a solid character because she's a hunt character. She's built to work on her own. Then you add the rest of the team. Acheron is built to work with a team. Her entire engine, right? The mechanic behind her is that I need 2 other Nihility characters in order to boost me up beyond my normal limits. So to trigger her stuff, you need a couple other characters. For Fei Xiao to trigger anything, somebody else just got to go, right? Hey, did you take a turn? Yeah, I think I just attacked that guy. All right, bet. I'm gonna write that down. That's number 1. Hey, did you take a turn? Yeah, I shot that guy in the face. Okay, that's number 1. Okay, it's my turn. Oh, it's my turn again? My turn. Oh, that's how Fei Xiao works, right? But Acheron, hey, how do we build the team again, guys? Well, I'm a harmony character. Okay, I can't use you. Who else is on the team? I'm sustained, so I'm preservation. Great, can't use you either. All right, where's the last one? Who's the 4th character? Just because you said it, I'm Himiko, and I'm gonna help you break characters. Great. So I'm on my own now. I have to do all this work on my own. Awesome. And that's where the problem comes into play. is that when you have people or players that are purposely building Acheron in the team, not that she wants, but what they want, which has always been Acheron team building problem, right? Every person that always talks about Acheron, the initial issue has always been, I don't want to play Acheron's team. I want to play the team that I want to play, and then I want Acheron on it. And because Acheron is always revered as number one, she's super strong, it should just work. For a long time, due to the game being not caught up with Acheron's strength level, it did work. You had a lot of teams where they were running Sparkle, Acheron, maybe like Pela or some shit like that, and then Gallagher or a regular sustain or something, right? And then you could make up for it. Or you had Sparkle, Pela, and then May, right? And it would work because she was just stronger than the game. Now the game is caught up to her level, or is catching up to her level, and they're making new mechanics based around enemy design or team enemy design, like the marionettes, the puppets. And so it's harder for Acheron to do what she wants without you fulfilling the conditions that she wants. That is kind of the problem here. So now we can answer this question based on vertical investment with Acheron, specifically E2 or S1. I think S1 is the play, 100%. I think E2 is luxury. You don't need E2. E2 solves the issue that I just talked about. The issue that I just talked about basically being, if you don't want to play Acheron's team the way she wants you to play it, then you get E2. E2, and I've said this before, E2 is for lazy Acheron players. It doesn't mean that you like, and when I say lazy, I know it comes off as like you're lazy is being used as an insult. I'm not saying that in a lazy manner or in an insulting manner. I'm saying that you don't want to do the thing that is required of you to get this damage. You want the shortcut. Me, a lazy person, I also want the shortcut. Can I get E2 Acheron? Probably. It really depends if I'm like really lucky or not, you know, but it is what it is. Outside of that, finishing up what we're talking about with Acheron. But yeah, Acheron, as far as like the vertical investment and answering that question, her signature allows you to essentially fulfill her own conditions to gain her ultimate faster so that you don't have to worry about things. E2 also does this by giving you an extra, an extra point whenever she does her attacks or something like that. And so E2 plus the light cone, now what ends up happening is when you would have gotten 1, now you get 3. And that means that you're getting, like, the amount of ultimates you get is insane. And you need less Nihility characters in order to fulfill her power-up condition. So it further increases the value, meaning that now what you could do is literally do Sparkle, Acheron, Pela, and whatever the fuck else you want, and you're fine. Yeah, it means that you only need 1 Nihility, not 2. And so now you can add your Harmony character to give you a further boost, right? Beyond plus Ultra, like you could do something like that. So, but that is well territory. You can do it, but if I had to prioritize one of them, I would prioritize S1, and then I would go for E2, because E2 is something that you can fix by good team building and strong gameplay. You don't need E2, like the requirement of like, oh man, I have to use 2 Nihility characters. Acheron buffs herself. The only thing you're missing is the action advance forward, which is understandable, but because of the way her ultimate works, something getting clapped no matter what, right? You can get her ultimate in the middle of somebody's turn, at the end of somebody's turn, the very beginning of the phase, like you're fine. Pick up the Eidolon on another rerun. Or if you get really lucky, right? Let's say you just do a fuck it temple, you get that light cone, and it's the one you want, guaranteed, like first temple, fuck it, ball out, go for the E2. That's what I did. When I pulled for Acheron, I got her light cone very early, but I got fucked on her banner. So I only ended up with, I think, E1 at that time, and I couldn't get E2 like the rest of my peers, but it is what it is. And now, hopefully, I'm able to get E2, but I am pulling for Rappa, so, you know, money might be a thing. That being everything pertaining to Acheron, there's a last thing that I want to talk about. What happens after? You guys have an entire patch to skip or save or whatever, right? You can skip Rappa, you can skip Dill Pickle, you can skip Acheron, and I think Aventurine is after this, right? Or he's at the same time. Yeah, Aventurine's at the same time as Aventurine is the same time as Acheron. Aventurine is an amazing sustain. You have an option. Well, by the time this video comes out, Linksha would be gone. Your options for sustains would have been Linksha or Aventurine. I'm sure Ho-Oh is going to come up at some point. The reason I would not have recommended Ho-Oh, given the particular teams that we have kind of like shooting to the top right now, is that Ho-Oh doesn't benefit them more than the others. Linksha and Aventurine kind of fulfill every single team that we have sustain wise, and then they also add more value in terms of damage or being able to apply debuffs or whatever the case may be. So regardless of if you guys were going to go for Acheron or Fei Xiao or even Rappa / Firefly to some degree, right? Like Super Break, Linksha or Aventurine would significantly help them better then Ho-Oh. So now we're in a position where, and to be fair, I guess Ho-Oh could still work too, because like the attack buff, the energy that she's going to give you, but now you're doing weird plays with the skill point, whatever. Anyway, Ho-Oh is Huehue. I call her Ho-Oh because Pokemon. I love me some Pokemon, but you know that. So now that we're talking about that, Aventurine's kind of whatever. It's not that you should skip him. I'm not recommending that anybody skip him. I'm thinking that if you already skipped Linksha, you're going to skip Aventurine, because the only reason you would have waited for Aventurine specifically is for follow-up attack. And if you're waiting for follow-up attack, then this entire video's conversation doesn't even matter to you, right? Because you would have already had your complete team. You would have had Facial, you would have had Topaz, you would have had their vertical investment done if you chose to do so. And then you would have picked up Aventurine, and then you get March 7th for free. You have possibly Mose from the Facial banner that you could have had. And then you also have Robin. You would have had Robin, right? So if you were going for Aventurine for that reason, none of this matters in the context of the video. It matters in terms of like the conversation, but not in terms of the context. Now, beyond that, we can finally end it off with what's coming in the next patch, whether that be 2.7 or we jump straight into 3.0. What's happening here is every single time you guys skip something that's like meta defining or a part of the meta or helps fulfill a team in the meta, a strong team at that, you are leaving yourself open to not having something that you need for another team. Now, it's speculation, air quotes, right? The summon meta is coming up next, which means we are going to get a brand new archetype that is fleshed out. Now, we have characters that have summons in the game right now, those characters being stuff like Topaz with Dumby or Jing Yuan with Lightning Lord. To a degree, Lightning Lord is a little bit of a weird summon, but you know, it works out. We have those. These things are going to be more fleshed out in 3.0, meaning that the things that you're worried about now to build up your team or like to wait for puts you in a worse situation. It's going to put you in the same situation that a lot of players were in with Super Break. When Firefly got here, there were more players bitching about not having Firefly or not having a Super Break ready team than there were players talking about how strong Firefly was and like they're so prepared and whatever else. Why? When you ask yourself, I meant to say right, but I'm gonna cut that out. When you ask yourself why to that specific question, it's because they decided to do exactly what other players are telling you to do right now. Skip, 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 skip. Oh, new character came out and she's unanimously busted. Pull her now. She's a must pull. You need to get this character. She's the next meta. She's the next main DPS. You just skipped all of her supports. Like you did the stuff in reverse. You know what I mean? Like instead of getting the character that you would have wanted to get so that the whole team is lined up and ready to go, you skipped all that shit, got the DPS character. Now you're sitting there trying to force this DPS character to work without having any of their supports. The same thing happens when you're going into the next meta, right? We never start the next meta with that DPS. It's the next meta doesn't start with the main DPS. It starts with the supports or the sustain or like a little teaser of what we're getting into. Linksha with Funyun or Eevee, right? That is a little teaser of going into the summon meta. We again, Topaz and Numby, but they fall under follow-up attacks, so it doesn't really matter to the extent that it does. Hey, we might be getting a new Harmony character, right? It might be one of the days that end with a Y. You know, Wednesday, I think we're getting a character called Wednesday, and that character may or may not be relevant to the summon meta. That's a support. So now you have players that are looking at this, and this part is very important. Harmony characters are traditionally really good universally. What's been happening lately is Harmony characters are really good universally, which puts them at the top, and then they are phenomenally broken or really just busted as shit, right? Like phenomenally busted for this very specific thing. If you pull Wednesday because you want to boost up your hyper carry or boost up your dual DPS or further progress whatever team you've been playing since day one, you are going to be disappointed whenever you are trying to flesh out the rest of that comp or archetype or skip it or whatever. Pull characters with the intention to play them in their most optimal scenario. That doesn't mean you can't play these characters in other team comps or other archetypes or other scenarios, but it means that your intentions when pulling this character are for this thing. If players are looking at pulling Wednesday, I highly suggest you pull Wednesday with the intent to build into the summon meta, because that is going to be the best play for you account wise versus you pulling Sunday, skipping shit that doesn't matter to you at that time, and then turning around later, damn, I need this rerun, or man, I should have gotten this because blah, 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 blah. whatever. But that's a whole different thing. The main point of that is for you guys to be more aware of what you're investing into, why you're investing into it, and how you should be investing into it. I think that's the easiest way to explain stuff. And then everything in this video was me explaining that in a very extended way to answer as many questions as possible before you guys could ask the questions. But ask the questions anyway. I'm sure that me and the community will try and help you guys out and kind of go from there. But yeah, I can't say my usual outro is inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later. Why did I throw up 3 fingers? I was done at 2. I don't know why I did that.